Spirit and Soul, where Atlanta's service industry unpacks raw and provocative truths, share hilarious commentary about their unique industry experiences.
That's the true story.
Welcome to the Spirit and Soul podcast, a place where we share anecdotes, lessons, recipes, and the personalities of those in the service industry here in Atlanta. We all love a great cocktail, but the industry is so much more than that. We have soul too, and that's why you love us so much. I'm your host, Courtney, and today our guest is Shannon Evans. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
It is a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited about this interview. If you can't tell, I shouldn't say interview, conversation. Anywho, Shannon is the Atlanta brand ambassador for St-Germain. She's a curator of experiences, a writer, a traveler. She has a dinner party series. She's a level 1 sommelier and so much more. So, Shannon, I mean, you probably can tell, but I really do admire your career path. And I think that everything that you produce is just really dope. So I was like, as soon as I met you, I was like, I have to have her on this podcast. So I'm so happy that you're here. Okay. So our goal today is to educate our listeners. One of the goals. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, but a few of the goals today is to educate our listeners a bit, help guide them to have better experiences when they're out, and maybe introduce them to some new things. So, let's talk about how we met. I believe it was at the Sip of Paradise Garden. I don't remember what event.
But no, not the recent one.
No?
Wait,
No, not that. No,
I'm trying to think. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I feel like it was there,
I know it was before Thompson.
Yes, it was.
But it was like around that time. I don't know, actually.
Okay. I just know it was at the Sip of... I feel like that was the introduction.
What was happening there?
It had some other... I feel like other brands were involved. Because I remember a few brands were involved. Because I remember that Georgia Route Mobile Jason. He's in a mobile renovated horse trailer. Also,
okay,
he's another.
I have not met him.
Okay, he does events there. Okay, so maybe that wasn't it. See, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Anywho,
I don't know. I actually have no idea.
Yeah,
I remember seeing you after we met at the Thompson Hotel.
I remember that one.
But I know that's not where we met.
Yeah.
But it was like right before that. Like
yeah.
I think was it at Nate's dinner or lunch at Low Country Steak? Were you there?
No, not that one.
Okay, no.
It was an industry event. We'll just leave it at that. It was an industry event, and like any time I meet someone, especially if I think they're cool, we exchange IGs, and then I immediately go look at your links. I'm like, okay, so what is this person about? And I found Holy Sip, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I immediately became a fan. And I know Holy Sip is a lot of things, and so we'll get into that a bit more. But the element that I came across was the blog element. And it was just basically, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but a monthly blog post where you're sharing your experiences in the food and beverage industry as a professional, but also as a consumer.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a sporadical post.
Okay, you won't say much.
It's a newsletter. I think for a good stretch, for like the better part of a year, I was writing it weekly.
Okay.
And then, things kind of take over. Before that, though, I used to do a newsletter, like when I was running a restaurant and bar. That's kind of how it started. Like instead of sending out like those traditional newsletters that people do, like here are our upcoming things.
Yes.
Like for me, that never felt quite right, and so I would write these like letters just kind of the way that Holy Sip now is. Like well, someone tried to steal my coffee table today, and like tell like the real stories that actually happen in the restaurant industry that people never know about. Where it's like, people are like, what? I'm like, no. This is what I'm living with. Like, this is all this other stuff. This sounds really, really cute, but someone came in here and tried to take the coffee table. Someone came to, like, yeah, no, it was wild. But so, and people really resonated with people, and they found it funny, even though I was, like, slightly dying inside.
It was your outlet.
This is traumatic.
It was a good outlet, though.
It was. And some of the things were humorous to me. It was like, I don't know, be fighting with parking lot people, or just, like, random things of just, like, you know, the things that you don't realize of, like, what it actually takes to run a brick and mortar restaurant. And so I think people really enjoyed having that inside look. And so I was writing that for maybe like 2 or 3 years, and then transitioned it to Substack, like during the pandemic. And I think sometimes the reason why it doesn't always come out weekly, and so it's more monthly-ish. But if
you're doing great monthly,
like yeah. If I feel like writing like every week, then I do. But I never want to like not like write just because and not really have something to say. So it's just like some weeks I have like tons of inspiration, and then others I'm like, all right, yeah, I've got nothing.
But I love how, like, when you have nothing, you still say something. And it's still so good to me. It's still so good.
I actually meant to send one out today, but then I forgot it was Friday. And I was like, I forgot to take my trash out last night because it was supposed to be picked up this morning. And then I was like, oh, wait, today is Friday? I'm like, I was totally supposed to send out this newsletter. And I actually have one, like, in my mind that I've been working on. But it's just, I don't know, I'm working on, like, my favorite restaurants and bars, but for like all occasions and things.
Oh my gosh! Guys, literally, that was one of the questions that I had for you. A lot of some of the things we're going to talk about was about some of that, because I feel like you have expert knowledge about these things, and that was a thing that happens a lot. It's like people expect us to know all of the places, where to go, where to have a good time. If they're traveling here, where do I go for brunch?
Or it's like, where do I, exactly. I get the brunch one a lot, or I get like, where can I host this 20-person thing? And I'm like, ugh. And so when people like ask me in the moment, you would think I've never eaten at a restaurant in Atlanta, because I have no answers. I'm like, So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just write a whole... These are all the things for all the possible reasons people are like asking
Take your time.
Me about them. Yeah, so it's like
get it out before the year. To me, that's gonna be good. That's a great holiday gift. Like,
I've been working on it. And like I go, I'm like, oh yes, this one for this reason. I'm like, oh yes, this for that reason. So yeah, it's coming though.
I'm excited. I think the blog, once you check it out, Holy Sip. What's the website?
It's holysip.co.
Okay.
Holysip.co.
Holysip.co. Once you check it out, you'll understand what we're talking about and understand why I'm so excited when I come across it, when I see it in my email. Because, sometimes you'll get, if you subscribed, you'll get notification.
Yeah.
But if you don't, check your email, or you're not paying attention, you miss some stuff. But when I do see it, I'm like, ooh, it's a new one. I get a little excited. I think for me, I just really resonate with your style of writing.
Thank you.
And I think it's entertaining. I like the punniness. I like the sarcasm, the humor, sarcasm portion of it. And then I just feel like it's short and sweet. It's like you're not putting any airs into what you're talking about. You're just like, this is this thing. It's like, how can you be so honest and just so... I don't know. It's so good. I love it.
Thanks.
It so much.
I think sometimes that's like some of my angst and why I also don't write all the time, because it's like I never know how it's like being received. Like it's just like I get in my head like a lot about it. I'm better these days, but especially like when I first started writing, like that initial newsletter, like I'd write one like every 3 months, like every 4 months, and people are like, what happened? And like, but I'm just like, I don't know, this is weird.
No, it's not weird, and I'm glued, and I'm sure our listeners will be too once they check it out. Getting more into Holy Sip, I know I want to understand more of it in its entirety, because I know the blog is just a portion of it, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, your dinner series is a part of Holy Sip too. So
yes,
can we explain that?
So Holy Sip is like many things. When I had a restaurant bar that transitioned to an event space in Atlanta, And once I closed that, I started working on this other, like, more experiential bar where, like, people would... There was no menu. So my initial space was 4,000 square feet.
Wow.
A very big space. I'd never worked in hospitality.
Right?
Yeah, downtown. I'd never worked in hospitality before. Like, not even,
really?
like, nothing.
What would
like,
make you want to do this? What? Wait,
insanity.
I did not know this.
No, I'd never even been, like, a hostess at a restaurant.
Oh,
like,
my God.
I'd literally never worked in the industry,
Okay.
and just had this kooky little idea. I was doing photography at the time and wanted a photography studio and then wanted a place that, like, people could come and hang out. And I've always been, like, enamored by, like, restaurants and bars. Like, I think years ago I thought I'd open, like, a tea shop or something like that. But this, like, I've always loved drinking, as weird as that sounds. Like, something about alcohol bringing people together has always felt very, very, like, right to me.
Yes.
And so this space that I found was much bigger than I would have imagined, and it had a full kitchen already, and there were, like, several things grandfathered into the space. And so it just took me down this road of, like, okay, this is now what I'm going to do. And, like, I don't even do photography anymore, you know, as, like, most people don't even know that I was, like, a photographer for years. Like,
really?
like I made a living as a photographer for years, like a professional
and
photographer.
You don't do it anymore?
I don't do it anymore.
Not
I don't
even
shoot
a little
anymore.
bit?
I mean, I might shoot things for myself. If you see anything, like, aesthetically pleasing that I've posted, it's like, because
I'm an expert. I know what I'm doing.
I still kind of, you know, I have that eye, and if I'm inspired, I might go, okay, let me frame this properly to do this. But so once that space closed, I opened the space. Once it closed, it, like, just took everything out of me. But I opened Holy Sip. It was like a small cocktail bar in Castleberry Hill.
Okay.
So it only had 6 seats. So I went from, like, 4,000 square feet to, like, 150 square feet. It was, like, the tiniest of spaces. And I came up with the name because it was, like, inside of Holy Stitch. Like, there's Blue, I wouldn't say it's, like, 2 Chainz is the designer.
Okay.
So we would have essentially shared that space. So it was, like, for me, I was like, oh, okay, this could be Holy Sip instead of Holy Stitch, and, like, you know, whatever. And so that's kind of how I thought of the name.
Okay.
And so I did, for me, again, that space, it was like an omakase type of cocktail experience. There was no menu at all. It was, like, based on my travels. Like, sometimes, like, I'd bring things back, and, like, but more importantly, these stories of, like, drinking in other places or things that I came across and, like, what inspired me to create a certain cocktail. So I, like, it'd be 6 people. I'd do 4 cocktails, 90 minutes. And that was it. Like, that was the experience. And it was amazing. It was amazing. To me, it's, like, honestly one of my favorite things that I've ever done in life. People ask me if I'll ever bring it back. I don't necessarily know if that will be a thing. But it is a thing that I really, really loved.
Okay.
And I think it was just the story of it, you know. And I think that that's still what Holy Sip is, but just differently. And so I think it is more so, like, stories around drinking and dining and just, like, the intersection of, like, living a great life in general. So whether it's, like, that cocktail experience or the newsletter or, like, a dinner in Jamaica, like, that's, like, all Holy Sip and, like, the idea behind it.
Love it. Yeah. Just sit with that, y'all. Just sit with that for a second. Because, like, I want to experience that now. We're hungry for that.
It was so
it
cool. Was great. It was, and I think I just needed that creative freedom at that time. Like, you know, running Studio Number 7 was just so much work, and I got really far away from, like, being a creative and having to be an operator. And this just gave me a chance to just, like, all right, you know, you guys are just dialed in on the experience. Like, I can just create whatever it is that I want. Like, that's what you're here for. Like, there are no orders. Like, it's just, this is the drink. All of you are drinking at the same time. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. And we're done. Like, and it was still,
Shannon, we're going to bleep this out, but it's giving boss bitch moves. That's boss bitch moves. I'm just trying to be like, one day, your goals. I did see that Well, I had here one of the opening statements on Holy Sip is opened restaurant and realized that sucked, but I love food a lot, and I feel like you just explained all of that. So,
yes.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about Jamaica dinners, the dinner series that she hosts. So I've heard a lot about these Jamaican dinners.
I'd say Jamaica
dinners.
Yeah.
Okay, and so like, have you heard of Shannon's Jamaica dinners? Yeah, Jamaica. I'm like, what is this? Can you explain what the Jamaica dinner is, how it developed, and maybe just set the scene for us if we were in the room?
Okay. So I actually started doing dinners here in Atlanta. And so when I had the space, I was doing a series called Midnight Barbecue. And it was just being a creative in Atlanta, coming across so many people. Diversity is super important to me. And I just kept coming across really dope people that I knew did not interact with each other for whatever reason.
Sure.
And so it was just like a way for me to give back to the creative community. So I'd host a dinner at the space, like in our little courtyard, and like 8 to 10 people, invite, random people out, have a chef like do the cocktails type of thing. And I also really loved that too. Before like the Holy Sip space happened, like the dinner series was like my like pet project. I used to say like if I had a dream job, like if there's one thing I could do for like the rest of my life,
it's that
like doing a dinner party is like.
If you've never been to a dinner party unless you've been to one of Shannon's dinner parties.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be the lame person that sits here and compliments you over and over again because I really need people to understand the magnitude of what she does.
Thank you so much. But I love dinners. Like, to me, it's just the perfect combination of community and like when you add like great energy with great food and great drinks, it's just like a perfect night, for me there's just nothing better. And so I was doing Midnight Barbecue, and then it was actually like I randomly said, I was like, I'm going to do one in Jamaica, and people took me seriously, specifically Eric and Rocky, and they were working at the space at the time.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, when are you gonna do it? We're gonna come." And I was like, "Okay, well." I was like, February, like
this thing here.
I just threw out literally a random date in February, and I was like, February. I don't even remember what year it was. And this was like 5 years ago at this point. And then so actually before like maybe the 4th Midnight Barbecue dinner, like they came in, we're saying, they're like, "Oh, we bought our flights to Jamaica." And I was like, "What?" Like,
wait, they just bought it?
They bought their flights. And I was like,
you know what?
What?
You know what I'm realizing too in this industry? It's like people who fuck with you, like, and that show up and support, like, and they believe in you sometimes more than you believe in yourself.
Right, because I was not serious.
Then you have to get on the bandwagon and say, "Okay, y'all believe in me. Let me step up to
I
it."
was not.
What?
No part of you. Like, it was just something I said, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, oh, like, just a lofty dream that I just happened to say aloud, and they took me, like, very seriously. I was like, oh, okay, because this was, like, weeks later after I'd said it. They were like, yeah, we bought our flights, and I was like, oh, shit, okay. So, actually, I was like, okay. And so, literally, that night after that dinner, I went home, and I had to go buy a flight to Jamaica, and then figure out a whole dinner, and so this coming February will be year 6.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
It's been happening every year since then. About 20 people come down to dinner in Jamaica. It happens, I do it in Portland. So I was born in Jamaica, but from Mandeville, which is like,
where's Mandeville?
Right. Okay. So, it's I'm trying to like figure out how to. Okay. So if Montego Bay is here, and Kingston is right here, then Mandeville is here.
Okay.
So there's no beach. It's like the breezy part of the island. Like you could need like a light jacket at night. It's just like more mountainous than anything. But it's like, anyway, that's not where the dinner is. The dinner. So again, Montego Bay, Kingston. It happens here. In Port Antonio. And so Portland is the parish. Port Antonio is like the city. But Portland, that area is known for like being just very green and lush. It rains just about every day in Portland. Not for like long stretches of time, but it's like you'll wake up to like a morning rain just about every day. But it has like the most beautiful beaches on the island. It like some of the best beaches in the world are in Portland. Like Frenchman's Cove. It's just like the river like meets the ocean in just this very magical way, and they're like swings on beaches, and like they're not very crowded. It's not touristy much, because you kind of from Montego Bay, it's about 4.5 hour drive to Portland, and from Kingston is like 3 hours. So it's very much off the beaten path. Like you really have to want to like go there. Like it's a deliberate little trek. But back in the day, it used to be like where the old Hollywood jet set used to go. So like
I don't know what that is.
Like the whole like Hollywood celebrities, like when they went to Jamaica, like that's where they go. Still, a lot of celebrities when they go to Jamaica, that's the part of the island they go to. Like G-Jam is there. They have like a recording studio, so a lot of like artists have recorded at G-Jam.
Gotcha.
So that's where I do the dinner, and for me it was just as kind of coming from Midnight Barbecue, and so the first one was under the Midnight Barbecue banner and there's just so much street food along the way, so kind of keeping within that like thing. Like we traveled to like get there.
So, and the travel's like you said 3.
Yeah, coming from Montego, it's like at that time the roads are better now, but it was like almost 5 hours.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's a trip.
Wow,
it's a trip. You're traveling.
I'm curious to know, like you said, about 20 people come down. How do people get invites and know about these things that you produce? And I say that because I feel like I notice a trend with things that you do. You're never just like you don't advertise anything. Nothing's like, hey, tickets on sale, like get them now. I never see that. It's like, if you know, you're personally invited. I've hand selected you to be a part of this thing or something. What is that? What it is? Like, what are you doing? Because I'm like, and if you feel uncomfortable, if you're like, I'm not gonna tell you that. But I'm just like, but what is it?
I think that with the dinner, like I'll mention it in my newsletter before it happens.
Okay.
I don't really put it on social much. When I did the first, maybe like the first 2, like I'd email people, like personally invite people. That's like the way that those first 2 went. But I'll mention it. I think sometimes people do think it's like, oh, I can't go to this thing. I'm like, no, you absolutely, especially for Jamaica, like you absolutely can go, because for me, like where the other things I am a little bit more intentional about who I invite, and like curating a room that feels just like very energetically good. For me, with something like this trip to Jamaica, it's like, if I tell you that there are not many details, like there are a lot of things I do intentionally around this trip. Like there's no itinerary. The only itinerary that you get is that dinner is at this time. You don't even really know the place. Like, it's at this part of the island at this, not even the time until you like a week before the trip. Like it's on this day. So as long as you're in Jamaica on this day and you make your way to this part of the island, you'll be at the dinner. So like, if you're willing to go, okay, and then I tell you it's like 4.5 hours from, the airport that most people fly into, and like that you might not know everybody there, and some part of you is still like, oh, I really want to go to that thing, then you're the right person. You know what I mean? Like, you are the person that's going to add to that experience. So people like self-select.
It's giving Woodfire Festival tried to do. You know what I'm talking about?
What, fire? Fire. I think you said wood fire festival.
No.
Fire festival.
Like, come to this with me. And it's like, what the?
But, that was, all I see are those bad sandwiches. Oh my God. Like,
this is the opposite of that. This is a successful experience. And not having all the details look like. And I can vouch for it because Shannon just recently had a brunch dinner, an industry brunch dinner a few weeks ago. And I was honestly floored. I did not have work. Okay, just get used to it. I'm dramatic. I'm very dramatic. I was floored. I was like, I'm not done. I can't deal with her and these things. This is just too perfect. Everything was perfect. It's like you hand selected the guest list. I mean, the chef. I think her name was Sung-hee.
Sung-hee.
Yeah. the Korean fusion, that was amazing. You had Tandy on cocktails, that was amazing. The DJ, I really would say that's my favorite part.
Oh my god,
she was my favorite part.
She's like, I've known her for years.
I
was like, girl,
chills.
I can't do anything else without you.
We couldn't even eat without, we couldn't. And then it was like, oh, the meal's done, great. It's time to dance. It was perfect. Everything was absolutely perfect. Yeah. But yeah, that was great. I guess we talked about it there, but what was your intention behind brunch dinner?
So this was my second time doing this. So, brunch is really important to St-Germain. And because it's the moment, right? Like, it is this idea of being able to gather with people and unwind and like just enjoyment and like living life to like a carefree type of experience. And I love brunch, like genuinely love brunch and like everything that stands for.
Obsessed.
But when I thought about Atlanta and doing that for the industry, I feel like there's a lot of trauma around brunch for people in the industry. And I think that pop-up culture is also such a big Atlanta thing. So for me, it was just kind of like thinking about how to make this something like a really authentic Atlanta experience. And so that's like where the idea of the night brunch came up. And so just like, to me, that experience, like the other night, it just feels like Atlanta. Like, it feels like, just again, especially when I see the diversity at the table and the music and the food and the cocktail, like, it just feels like the thing that people don't really quite get about this city. And it was just like a very perfect moment for me.
Perfect. How do you what inspires you to be like, okay, I want that DJ, have to have that chef. Like, what is that? You just know.
Yeah, and some of it, honestly, I just allow the universe to kind of like bring it together.
Okay.
Like, I might start off with an idea of like what it is that I want, but I remember years ago, before I started reading events, and I can't remember quite exactly, like, it's something they do in like some seminar or whatever, but it's like a saying of like, the right people will show up, the right things will happen. And that's like what I remind myself, to not get so tied to like what I think I might want to see, and to just really leave space for that, like the magic of it, to go, okay, these are the people I'm inviting, but I know that the right people will show up, and the right chef and the right bartender, like, it will all happen and it will be a perfect moment. And that's like the intention I set for myself and the experience, and it just kind of works out that way.
That is a word. Oh my gosh. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. So see you in just a moment.
At Spirit and Soul Mobile Bar Co., we are passionate about delivering a luxurious and unforgettable mobile bar experience. Our focus is on crafting soulful cocktails that not only taste exceptional, but also reflect the essence of each season. Our dedication goes beyond just serving spirits. We believe in the power of intentionality and strive to provide an impactful and elevated guest experience. We invite you to share your vision with us, whether it's an intimate gathering, a wedding, a corporate event, or any other special occasion. To book with us, please visit spiritandsoulatl.com.
Hey, so I want to talk about St-Germain. As you remember earlier, I mentioned that Shannon is the brand ambassador here in Atlanta for St-Germain. But a lot of our listeners, some of them are in the industry, some of them are not, but they're just invested in these stories and the industry. They love to learn about it. So that being said, I just want you to give a quick education on what St-Germain is, and maybe since we're in the fall season, maybe a couple of just random cocktails, easy somethings like, oh, this and this is great.
Sidecar.
Yeah.
Okay, so St-Germain is an elderflower liqueur. It's an artisanal French elderflower liqueur, to be more specific, and the first elderflower liqueur that was created. It hit the scene 2007, kind of like at the same time when the craft cocktail movement was coming of age. It's the first modern liqueur that was created, like at that time, intentionally for bartenders that were becoming more professional, to have things that would help aid them in like creating cocktails. So I think the very unique thing about St-Germain is that the elderflowers in it are wild and hand-picked, and it happens once a year during a 3 to 4 week period in the spring.
Wow.
So around like May, and so it's just like, again, catching those elderflowers at full bloom. So we partner with different farmer collectives and to get the elderflowers, and every single bottle of St-Germain has up to 1,000 fresh elderflowers in it, and I think that that's just like truly special. But I again, the other thing that I love about it, being a creative and being an entrepreneur, is that understanding that it was created for those creatives, you know, and I think that that's what makes it so special and has really like created a whole category. Like, you know, when I see other things, I'm like, it exists because St-Germain, like, you know, existed. Paved the way. So
that's dope. Maybe, well, what we're sipping on now, maybe talk about that.
Yeah, so we're doing one of my like go-tos, like especially at the end of the night. This is a St-Germain Royale. So it is like akin to a Cœur Royale, which is normally, it's a French cocktail, which is normally like a raspberry liqueur and champagne. And so we're doing St-Germain and sparkling wine.
Love it. So tasty.
So simple.
So refreshing.
Yeah.
Easy. You can buy a bottle of that and buy a bottle of bubbles from the liquor store and you got it.
Yeah.
That easy. And a great brunch, as we were talking about.
Yes, it is a great brunch.
Cocktail.
It's a great aperitif cocktail. You know, I love just like low ABV, easy drinking situations. And that's like definitely what this is.
So we're sipping on that, but I also have this here, which I'm going to take a shot of. But I wanted to explain it because when I was first introduced to St-Germain, it was probably circa 2012, 2013, and I was working in like a lounge club type situation. And to be completely honest here, me and my coworker together probably went through a bottle of Jack Daniels every Friday and every Saturday.
Wow.
It was medicinal. It was needed to get through these crazy shifts. Atlanta was wild back then. Atlanta is still wild. And so back then it was just like, we had, like, it was the only way. It was, bartenders understand what I'm saying. The only way to get through a shift was to drink. And it's so funny how you can be so high functioning and be like half a bottle in and just like, no sweat, no. Only one time was somebody like, are you drunk? And I was like, what? What? No, of course not. That only happened one time. Anywho, we would take shots of Jack, but he called it Jack and Germain, and he had to snap with it. He was like, Courtney, you want to do a Jack and Germain? And I'm like, what's that? And he's like, take a shot, and we put St-Germain, a little splash in there, and it's Jack and Germain. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, Jermaine Dupri, because that's how he was saying it. He didn't even say it like Saint-Germain. He was Jermaine, like the homeboy Jermaine. And I'm like, okay, so if we're hanging out with these two guys.
My cheeks hurt.
I know, mine do too. We're hanging out with these guys, Jack and Jermaine, and we have a good time with them every weekend.
Just get like Jack and Jermaine.
Yeah, like two homeboys. And so this is a shot of Jack with a splash of Saint-Germain. And what it is like, for me, it made it so that the Jack was a little bit more digestible and palatable, you know, not so rough, so it made it a little lighter. The cast here has had some of that, and so cheers. I'm gonna take my shot with it. Cheers to Jack and Jermaine and that old coworker that I can't remember his name, but hopefully he sees this one day.
Oh.
Okay, what's the target audience though for St-Germain? And then I guess everybody. You want everybody to buy St-Germain. But what do you feel like is that sweet spot, especially here in Atlanta, between like the consumers and like restaurants? Like,
I think what's always been important to us are like craft bartenders. And again, it's because that's where St-Germain started, you know? Like if it wasn't for like that collaboration between the brand and the bartenders at that moment, first of all, the liquid wouldn't be what it is, and the popularity of it wouldn't be what it is. And so we for us, bartenders are like the consummate creative, and so just like, you know, the craft is where we grew up, and it's super important to us.
Yeah, that's very true. And then just moving a little further along, from my understanding, your dwelling has been, and from what you told us, your dwelling has kind of been in event production, on the event production side of things, specifically with focus on food and beverage. And then, just so you guys know, I had to do a little quick LinkedIn scroll. Some of her clients have been like the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, Atlanta Food and Wine Festival, which I just went this last week or so, A3C Hip Hop Festival, and so she's also had her independent ventures as well, her venue as well. But did you always know you wanted a career in event production, and then like that transition from those kind of things to focus like on St-Germain, you know, and what you do with that? Like, what inspired that transition?
Ooh, there's so much in that question.
Okay,
answer
the one that comes to mind first.
All right, so
I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so I've always done events. I did not understand that it was necessarily something that I was good at. Okay. So, like, from college, like, my friends and I would do events and, like, get, like, a really big turnout, you know, like, as freshmen at Howard University, which is, like, you know, to get, like, 150, 200 people to something at Howard as a freshman is not, like, an easy task.
Yeah.
But so we were always just, like, coming up with, like, kooky ideas and, like, even the way we promoted it, I just remember, like, oh, we should put, like, just this random little bunny on a flyer and, like, stick it all over the yard. And just, like, people, like, just random things like that. And, like, doing party promotions as well. Like, you know, we helped promote this, like, salsa club as a result of, like, this random stuff that we were doing on campus. And so, again, I've always done events since, like, that, like, early on. Then when I opened the space in Atlanta, I did that, then I went to corporate communications, where again I was doing events, like, on some level. Okay. Then I opened the space in Atlanta, and then that transitioned to an event space. But I think when it clicked for me, I read this book, and it was called So Good. Ooh, I'll have to look it up.
Please remember.
Yes. Like, if I see it, like, I'd have to look at my phone, but I still have it, like, on my Kindle. So Good something. But it pretty much, it was talking about, like, doing what you're good at, right? Like, that it's not necessarily about passion. Like, the passion will come if you follow, like, what you've been good at. And that was the moment that it clicked for me that I was really good at events. Like, I had this, like, 20-year track record by the time I was, like, in my early 30s at doing events, you know what I mean? Like, and so there must be some way to, like, leverage this to do the other things I want to do, where it's like, okay, I love food and beverage, but where I might be lacking in one area, what I'm really good at is events. And so how can I, like, make these two things
come together? I'm getting chills because I understand that so much.
Yeah, it's, like, so good they can't... Hold on, sorry. I gotta look it up because I need to find it.
You know, I feel like that's kind of how this podcast came about. It's like, what I'm good at, I'm a great bartender, but it's like, is that my passion? No. But I love connecting with people, and I love being that bartender that, you know, makes you more than just a cocktail. We'll sit here and listen until you talk. And what is it called?
So Good They Can't Ignore You. Yeah. It's an excellent book.
I like the title.
It's an excellent book, and that's like what clicked for me, where I was like, oh, it was like one of those things where, like, event production was easy for me, that it's like almost a thing that you don't think is a skill because it comes so natural to you. Like, I would have never thought that what I did was a skill. I'm like, anybody can do this. Like, it's just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
There we go. Like, that's what it is. And so it took me reading that book to realize, oh no, like, it's easy to me because I've done this for so long that it's become, like, a very strong skill set of mine. And I need to, like, really hone in on that and make that a part of whatever it is I do from this moment on, instead of, like, trying to reinvent that thing. And so it's like, yes, I might like running a restaurant and bar was not a right fit for me because, again, like I said, I didn't have any experience doing that. Like, I had zero experience. Yes. But once I took that, like, love of, like, food and beverage and mixed that with events, like, the thing that I did have a ton of experience doing, that's when, like, the world opened up for me.
That's
it was
amazing.
Like, okay, this is how this all works. Yeah.
You got your groove. You're like, okay, this is where I belong.
Yeah, this is exactly where
I belong. That's so amazing. I hope you guys took note of that book. Put it in your Amazon carts ASAP. ASAP. Okay, I want to transition to your traveling. You travel a lot, and I want to talk about dining and drinking when traveling. So, what I love most about your online content is that you're sharing your experiences abroad. So, you talk about a lot of different stuff, but when you're talking about what you've done abroad, I'm always just like glued. Like, tell me, where should I go? Okay, noted. This is what I need to be doing in my life. Like, I need to be there. And you do a great job at transporting the reader to those destinations with great cuisine, with great cocktails that are rich in culture. And I just want this segment of our conversation to be about dining and drinking abroad. Okay. So tips, hacks, etiquette, best practices. So this is especially for that person who goes to Spain and orders chicken tenders. Or the person who patrons a bar in Jamaica and orders a margarita. Is that wrong? No. Is that bad? I mean, do what you do. But I just feel like if you've paid money to be in a different environment and in a different culture, shouldn't you just embrace that culture and just kind of get out of what you normally do?
I will say, though, that if you go to Jamaica, definitely have some KFC because it's delicious. Like, that is, like, one of those things that you don't expect to be different, but it is. And it's amazing. Like, you'll see a line wrapped around any KFC.
Really?
Any KFC.
It's better than American KFC. Okay. Got it.
Any KFC.
They season that chicken right.
Yes, but I also hold Jamaican fried chicken in high regard. Okay. I feel like you hear a lot of things about like curry chicken and jerk chicken, but Jamaican fried chicken
is good.
I've never had any chicken better.
Really?
I don't care what anybody says. Y'all can fight me on this. But Jamaican fried chicken is the absolute best fried chicken.
Okay. Noted.
That's all I have for you.
Noted. Okay, question. How do you suggest people dive into the culture and let it lead them to the best cuisine and beverages? Like, maybe just a couple of tips. Because I'm sure that's you can unpack that in a lot of ways. But
I think that, like, whenever I travel, I think I'm just naturally curious about what people are eating and drinking. Like, I plan my trips around eating and drinking, and I feel like the places I end up being disappointed by, it's because for me the culinary experience was not quite like what I wanted. Like there's some places where I'm like, ugh,
okay, you
have no culture. Okay. But it's honestly few and far between, but there are like 2 places on my list where I'm like, meh. But I think it is I don't know. I like to ask questions like once I arrive. Like, yes, I do a ton of research on places, like just to know what like they've eaten forever, like, you know, and what places people are recommending. But that's such a hard one. Yeah, that's a really hard question.
I know, like, on your blog, I'll see, like, where you'll say, like, this is the signature spirit here.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, if you're in...
like Ghana and it's Actapeshi, right?
You know, like, so, like, go try that. Knowing that that's that, where can you find the best of that in Ghana?
Right, yeah. But that's what I mean. Like, that, it was, like... I came across that from talking to a friend, just asking that question, like, you know, and even though a lot of people in Ghana aren't even necessarily drinking that, right? Like, if you go to Accra, there's only one bar dedicated to, like, this, I guess, indigenous spirit that they have. But everybody else is drinking, like, the same things that we're drinking.
Right.
And so, for me, it's always trying to figure out why. Like, why is that? Like, what, like, where's this thing being made? Like, who's having it? Like, you know,
and then you end up finding the answers.
Finding the answer to it. But each place is just like a little bit different. I mean, I think that, like, kind of what you're saying in drinking a margarita in Jamaica, you know, it's not that you can't, but is that what we do? Not necessarily. Like, for me, you know, when we're in Senegal, my boyfriend, who's like very into like tequila and mezcals at the moment, and it was just like, he's like, oh, like, we were in Senegal. He's just asking for tequila everywhere. And I'm like, do you realize how far we are from Mexico? Like do you realize that we're not...
So the
cost of importing, like, this spirit here is just not the same as it is, like, as getting cognac from France or, like, you know, wines from South Africa. Like, it's like... we're like very far away from like what you're trying to get. And so it's like, yeah, they do have tequila, but it's not going, like, they're not going to have the brands that you might necessarily know, because that's created for a different,
ones that you feel like,
and it's because it's created for a different audience. You know what I mean? Like, being in the U.S., like, there's specific things that are created for us.
Yeah.
And so that experience is different. And it's like, they're not focused on, like, tequila, like, in that way. Like, but I'm always surprised at how big, like, a caipirinha is.
Okay.
Everywhere in the world that I've been, where I'm just like, oh, you guys really love like muddling sugar and lime and cachaça. I do too.
Tell our listeners what a caipirinha is.
So a caipirinha is like the Brazilian national cocktail. It's cachaça, lime, sugar. And you can generally give me anything with like lime and sugar, and I'm a fan. Like rum, lime, sugar,
citrus.
Tequila, lime, sugar. Like, it's just like, it always works out. That 3-ingredient lime, sugar, like spirit situation. It's like,
that's my secret
ingredient. Generally a good time. Muddle it. You can like juice, whatever. But the caipirinha I've found to be, it's like one of those surprise cocktails that I see randomly in places like Senegal. Every single cocktail menu in Senegal has a caipirinha on it. And I was just like, this is fascinating. In Kenya, they have what they call the dawa, which is like really a caipirisma when you use rum, but it's the same concept.
Unfortunately, I don't know the words you're talking about.
Okay, so a caipirisma, in Brazil, when you use, no, not even a caipirisma, a caipirosca. So in Brazil, when you use cachaça, it's a caipirinha.
Okay.
But when they use rum, it's a caipirisma.
Okay.
And then when you use vodka, it's a caipirosca.
Okay. So it's a variation of the same drink with different spirits.
Different spirits.
Got it.
In like the Brazilian lexicon. But so in Kenya, they were using vodka, and they also add a little bit of honey. So it's like, but they're doing the same method that they would in Brazil.
Okay.
So, but they call it the dawa, but it's a complete play on the caipirosca cocktail, if that makes sense.
So here in America, would that be? What would that be? What do we call that? Like, that's like a. Maybe
we would call it a
margarita without triple sec.
No, but we call it a caipirosca. Like, we call it. There's not a tequila variation in Brazil. Like, it's like cachaça, rum, or vodka are like the 3 variations that you normally see. But that's what like we'd call it a caipirosca because it's the same thing.
Okay.
It's
all right. Learning new things. So I'll say, just for our listeners, what helped me have better experience when I'm traveling and I'm eating and I'm drinking is I will book. Now, it's been a while, guys, so it's been like a couple of years. I'm a small business owner. I can't go nowhere right now. But travel experiences, so Travel Noir, not sure if you heard of them, or Black and Abroad, where they coordinate your whole week-long trip and you don't have to do anything, but the whole goal is you're there, but I go as an individual, but I'm meeting up with a group of people that I don't know.
Okay.
I end up becoming best friends with these people. I mean, to this day, the closest friends with some of these strangers that I met. This tattoo I got with 2 other strangers.
Wow.
And like they're just the coolest people ever. But
I never traveled that way.
That's because it's like, well, I like to meet people. I wanted the safety of not being alone. Now I feel like I can probably do it a little more solo now. But back then it was like, I want to be solo, but I still want to have the comfort of knowing I can hey, can we, like, I don't have to go anywhere by myself.
Couch surfing. Have you heard of couch surfing?
No.
And so it's kind of like that. It was like one of those original communities, travel communities. So everyone has like a profile, almost like a Facebook situation. And you can request to like meet up with people in different cities. Like, so like I remember the first time I went to Brazil, it's like you can either choose to like, you're either asking people to meet up for a coffee or to sleep on their couch or, you know, whatever. And so it like, that's like when I travel alone, I still kind of use that like kind of thing to get a good sense of a place. But again, you know, I realize that everyone might not think about food and drink the same way that I do. And so that's always why like I'm like a deep dive researcher, because even like when people travel to Atlanta and they ask certain people and like the stuff they tell people, I'm just like, wait, what?
Why would you tell them that?
Why are we recommending that?
You're embarrassing me. How do I know you again? I don't know you.
Like,
why would you suggest that?
Like, whenever I hear people come to Atlanta, like, oh, Atlanta doesn't have great food and drinks, I'm just like,
I do. That is definitely something I want to talk about, because there is something going on. Since we're here, let me go ahead and say this. I feel like a lot of things are about the experience. We're getting this experience, and the drinks are great. But I'm like, this food, y'all playing. This is not good. And it's not to say all of our food sucks, but I just feel like
because it does. We have amazing food and beverage,
but it's not the most popular places that, you know what I mean. It's not those places that you would immediately know.
It's not the Instagram places. It's like just ordinarily. It's just.
Maybe that's it. It's not the Instagram places. That's it. Don't look on Instagram. Don't look on social media to go, where should I eat? They're going to have a great experience. You might have some good cocktails at these places.
The ambiance might be right.
The ambiance, the music.
DJ, right. The DJ might be right.
But this food, I'm like, I could have cooked.
These
Why
are
did I come
frozen
here?
or Ida potatoes, but whatever.
Ugh. Anywho, transitioning. Okay, maybe some bar etiquette when abroad, if you have anything that comes to mind. If you don't, we can move on. But I feel like there's an understanding we have to have where it's like, understand where you are. We were talking about that, okay? You know where you are. You know where their strong suits are. Take that knowledge and decide what you're going to have knowing that information.
Yeah.
Do you, outside of that, do you have any bar etiquette knowledge when abroad?
I'd say just be nice, like, especially in those moments where you don't know the language. Like, I've been in that situation where I'm like, okay, well, like, at least I make it a point to know a few things, to be able to say hello and thank you, and, just
Google
like
Translate.
Right, like, really try and understand that, no one's obligated to speak my language in their country.
Right.
That's because that's not what happens here. And so to just like really like smile, like really just like,
and that's so easy to
be,
do.
yeah, just and just be try to express myself. However, and it's always funny to me. Like I said, I was in Senegal the other day, and they speak French. I do not speak French.
Okay.
I got a couple words for you, and that's kind of the extent. Oui, bonjour, like, comment ça va, like, very, key things.
Saint-Germain.
Right, Saint-Germain.
Right, I said Germain, like the rapper Jermaine.
Saint-Germain.
Saint-Germain.
But what was I going to say?
French, Senegal.
Yeah, I was going to say is, like, I remember being in situations where it's like, I can't speak the language, and they aren't fluent in Spanish, and they're apologizing to me. I'm like, you're doing better than I am. I'm the one that should be trying to figure out what you're saying.
I think about that all the time.
I'm just like, no, your English is excellent, because my French is, like, thank you for trying. You know what I mean? Like, but they feel, like, embarrassed, as if they should. And I'm just like, no, like, I'm in your country.
That's what I think all the time. That's why I like people who are dual, have bilingual in America. I'm always just like, I admire them, because I'm just like, Spanish speakers, any Latin, I'm like, that is admirable, because my brain hasn't, I would say I haven't tried. I'll just say that. I just haven't tried hard enough, because
I will say that, like, they say that people that are better at, like, math are actually better at languages.
Oh, that explains
why. Like, I'm not, and so even though, like, I can get around better in, like, Spanish-speaking countries, I've taken Spanish for a very long time, and at this point, I should be fluent, because I've taken so much Spanish. But I think it's that, like, and I used to think because I'm good at, like, English literature, like those types of things, writing, composition, like that's like my skill set, that like languages would fall into that. No, it's like, no.
It's the other side.
It's the math side of the brain, and I'm like, oh, this is why, I kind of struggle here. But I'm gonna try, like, give you what I got.
Effort. I want to transition a bit, and I want to talk about disappointments and non-negotiables. So we were kind of talking about, like, you going to a bar or a restaurant and being like, if the cuisine is not it, you're like super disappointed. And so I'm curious, I'm sure most of your experience when you go out, you set your intentions. I have this friend in particular, everywhere we go, especially if we're going together, if it's out, restaurant, cocktail, bar, whatever, she's like, what's your intentions for the day or the evening? And I'm like,
have a good time.
Eat, drink, have fun. I don't know. I don't know. She's like, say your intentions. But she's advocate. She's an advocate about, like, you know, just because you go into an environment, you know, you don't know what's going to happen when you get there. So as long as you have your intentions clear, you know, you're going to keep that in the back of your mind as you experience this whatever, and, you know, you'll still have a good time. So I try to practice that with her. Shout out, Kristen, I love you. But you arrive, and imagine you go to a restaurant, you arrive, and everything's just a disappointment. So what are some of the things that just throw your experience completely off for you, like when you go? Let's stay focused in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah, to help sexualize it.
I will say that right now, you know, living in this post-COVID world, like, I just sympathize so much with restaurants and, like, what they're going through. It's like, restaurants are really short-staffed. Like, I think that people don't realize, like, the impact that COVID still has on the restaurant industry.
Okay, that's fair.
And so, you know, every time that I go out, I'm very aware of that situation. You know, like, it's like there's so much turnover, there's so much new people, like, there's, you know, like, I've seen people go in restaurants and get upset, like, when they're, like, see empty tables and, like, they still can't get a seat. I'm like, but because there are not enough people working. Like, if you sat, you still wouldn't get any food, and then you'd be even more upset. You know what I mean? So it's like, so that, first of all, that's how I approach restaurants. Going, everyone is literally doing the very best that they can right now.
That's fair.
I think that what I still will find disappointing is, like, when that hospitality piece still is removed at some places, where it's like, I still want you to say hello. You know, like, I still want you to go, hi. Like, at a very minimum, acknowledge that I'm standing there and I'm sitting there. You know, when I sit at bars and I'm just like I know that you're busy. And
I know you saw me.
Right. And I know that you're busy, and I get it. Just say, hey, I'll be right with you. You know, like, so it's like just those very small things. Like, to me, I love the hospitality industry, and I think what's, like, sucked me into this world is because I'm so passionate about that. You know, like, I feel like when people are out, you should treat them the way that you would in your home. Like, you know, like that to me is the experience. Like, people are genuinely choosing to spend this moment with you. And, like, I've always been very passionate about acknowledging that. Like, you could be doing this anywhere, you know? And I'd want you to feel as comfortable in my home as I do in this bar. And so
I wish everybody could have that perspective.
Yeah.
But I want to follow this up after a short break real quick. All right. And so your experiences, you just wish that everybody could be more like family.
And a lot of people are, but it's like those moments when it doesn't happen where I'm like, oh, we're missing the hospitality.
You don't even care about me, do you?
Like,
that you can fake it a little harder.
It's like,
that's what I think. You can fake it a little harder.
And again, it's like, I try to, again, understand what is happening overall in the industry. But, you know, it's, at the end of the day, it is hospitality.
Right.
And that, to me, is, like, the part that we can't ever miss.
Yes. With that, I just want to recognize, I feel like you're a woman with standards. I feel like some people don't have those. But I think you have them. And I want to know what your rating system is. So I'm going a little deeper because you gave me a surface level response. Great, you know, we understand what they're going through. But as a patron, I think it's important to recognize what kind of bar you're walking into, which we talked about that, and where they thrive, and what to order, what not to order. But do you have any tips for our listeners on things to consider before they pick a restaurant, before they even open their mouths to order, before they even get ready to ask something? Say it to yourself before you ask it out loud, I guess.
I mean, depending on the place, like, the way that I approach places is to understand what they are, right? Like, if I'm going out and I want, like, it depends on the reason why I'm going out. Like, if I'm going to a dive bar, I'm not asking for a craft cocktail at the dive bar. It's like, you know, give me a beer. Like, I'm here for this environment.
Yeah.
And so it's just like those little nuances. Like, if I go to a wine bar and I see like a very small cocktail list and a very small spirit selection, again, I'm probably like going in a wine direction. You know, like, or if there's only one bartender working and like the place is slammed, I'm also tailoring my order to that, where I'm like, okay, you don't have time to be like having my complicated order and go, oh, make me something that you want to make. It's like nobody has time for that. Like, you're very busy. Like, this is what I want, and it's going to be, again, normally something like quick and sweet, you know?
Yeah.
Because I see that you're extremely busy.
Yes.
But in general, I personally, the places that I love, I look for places that, again, one, care about hospitality, like that are very intentional about their approach. Two, fresh ingredients, like food, and on the beverage side as well, like, you know, just like that care of like three. I like to see people taste the cocktail when they make it for me. Like, that is super important to me. Like,
I do that, and I'm always like
no, and a lot of times like I ask,
I want to make sure this is good before
especially
I get this
right,
off.
yeah, especially if I ask for something that you're not necessarily, it's not necessarily on your cocktail menu, and like it's like I'm always like, hey, did you taste that? Like, one, because I want you to know what it tastes like for you because I've asked for this specific thing, but two, it's like you should really taste that to make sure it tastes like good, you know, like that the measurements are right, like that the lime juice is fresh, like just kind of like those things. So I'm always encouraging bartenders to taste cocktails when they make them. I think that is like one of the absolute best things that you can do. And so those are kind of the overall things that I care about.
I love that. And some things to note that I've listed here, just because I didn't know where you were going to go with this. So I was just like, let me give out some examples. Do you see a bunch of TVs around the restaurant? It's probably a sports bar. Yes. Is it unsealed or sealed flooring? If it's not sealed, it's probably a dive bar. Is it a seat yourself kind of place, or is there a host stand? You know what I mean? Like, don't be like, I've been waiting. This is a seat yourself kind of situation. You know, you probably should just order something simple there. Don't try to get the pasta dish at that place, okay? Is the kitchen open to an extent where you can see the staff working or not? And that's not to say that the restaurants that are closed off, you know, you get what I'm saying? Like, there's some restaurants where you can see them working, and it's like that's part of the experience. They want you to see that. But sometimes some restaurants where you can't see what's going on, why can't I see you? Like, what are y'all doing behind there? There's some sketchy things.
Configuration.
Right. And not, like I said, that's not always the case, but a lot of the cases, I question that. Something I wanted to talk about really quick is, this is just me being completely honest. I feel like I am a bartender that has transitioned to the mixology stage of things, and I'm still learning. I'm not, you know, the most elitist of them all, but I know what I know, and I know it well, and I know the palates of my following. Spirit and Soul, Mobile Bar Co, Soulmates, shout out to you. But I feel like my biggest issue when I go out is I don't understand cocktail menus anymore. I'm like, what the hell is this? Is this another language? I don't understand any of the things that are on here. And it's like, yeah, you can pull your phone and Google it. And I'm like, sometimes I Google it, sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. Like, what's
But I think that's where the hospitality piece comes in.
Okay.
Because I don't know everything.
Yeah.
You know, like I think I know quite a bit, but there are so many things that I'm still learning, and I'm very okay with that. And I feel very confident when I look at a cocktail menu that if I don't know what it is, like, I'm asking the bartender what it is. It's like, hey, what is this? Can I taste it? You know, like, because I want to know why I don't know what this thing is, or and why did you use it, you know? So I think that people have to get more comfortable being able to have those conversations, and bartenders have to be willing to have those conversations, because if you're putting this on your menu and you know people are not going to understand it, you can't be an asshole about it. Like, when people don't understand it, you have to, like, be willing to engage about it. So, yeah.
I think some of it, too, might be, like, they use the name of the spirit sometimes, and the spirit might be an unfamiliar spirit. So I'm like, wait, what is that? I don't know if that's a bitters, a spirit, a aperitif, a vermouth. Like, what is that? And so they'll list it out like that, and I'm like, what is this? I don't know. But you got to be mindful of, does the bartender have time to talk to you about that? Like, right now? Like, read the room.
Yeah, read the room for sure. But again, I feel like if you're doing a menu that, like, people are not understanding, someone in that room should be able to answer somebody's question. Yeah. You know, like, I think that it is better to, because I'll ask the server, you know, if I'm sitting at a table, I'm like, hey, what is this? Like, and someone better be able to tell me. Someone should be able to tell me what this is. Or go ask the question. If you don't know, like, go ask whoever created it what it is. And so but again, like I said, that for me is a big part of hospitality.
Yeah.
You know, like you might, if you come into my home and I serve you something and you've never heard of it and you ask me, like, I'm more than willing to
Explaining it is
share
part
that.
of the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I want to transition to misconceptions.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like people will have will have better experiences when they go out if some misconceptions are cleared up. We're still kind of talking about the same thing a little bit, but misconceptions about certain spirits, bars in Atlanta, certain cuisines. So maybe they can approach them differently and then be open to trying them in a new way with a new approach, a renewed perspective on things. So I have a couple of things listed. Rum. I know you've talked about that on your blog, but I think there's some misconceptions about rum for the bartenders, how to use it, and for the people that's consuming it, what can be done with it. You know what I mean? Like getting it out of like this. Rums mean sweet drink, and it's like that's not always the case.
No.
So, what do you feel like is the common misconception?
Well, yeah, like exactly like you said. Okay. I think that people think that rum is always sweet, and that's the only way that you can enjoy it. When that's absolutely not true. There are definitely different rums that are like more dry.
Yeah.
You know, and it is just. And again, if you're putting that in a cocktail, it's like how are you balancing that with the other ingredients? Like there's certain like bartenders understand when they're making a cocktail and they use rum, like if it has, they're balancing it out with something else. Like so I think it's just sometimes getting out of that mindset that your only job when you're drinking is to taste the spirit. Like it is a complete thing that you're receiving.
Exactly. What is your opinion or you feel like misconception with gin?
You know, gin is a and
you know what they like to say,
like,
gin make you sin.
Yes, like so gin. I've had my bad gin college experience, and I think that that's what happens to a lot of people.
It tastes like grass.
It like you have gin for the first time. It is normally maybe like in too large of a dose, with not the other right accompanying ingredients, and like gin scarred me for years. I could not drink gin. It wasn't until like I opened my bar and like going through that whole process of selecting different spirits, and I was working with like a beverage consultant at the time, and like my first step back into gin was like American style gins, which are less juniper forward. So I was able to like go, okay, like I don't have this traumatic experience, and so now I can drink all styles of gin. But it took something to like retrain me to like, okay, there's not just one type of gin. There's not just one. Yeah. It's not one thing.
I've learned that with beer too.
There are many styles of beer.
I hate beer. You just haven't had the right one yet.
Yeah.
You know,
there are many different types of things for people.
What about Jamaican cuisine here in Atlanta? Or or you can say in general. You can say in general, so we don't have to point fingers. But what do you think is a misconception about Jamaican food?
Well, I think again, the fried chicken thing. I think that when it comes to Jamaican food in the U.S., it's a very specific thing that people are after. It's like curry chicken, rice and peas, oxtail, jerk chicken. And like maybe some stewed chicken, and that's like the extent of like what
some patties, throwing some patties.
Patties, cocoa bread, like that's like the majority of Jamaican food, and that's not a bad thing. Like those are very traditional Jamaican dishes. Like it's not. I'm not like going, oh, we don't really eat that. It's not like we do. But there are other things I love equally, like stew peas and Jamaican fried chicken and porridges of all types, like cornmeal porridge, plantain porridge, peanut porridge, like just a random selection. Soups are very big to our culture. So there's more. Yeah. Like. But what is given is not a bad thing. It's just like there's a little bit more there.
Okay. Moving on, because we're almost done. We're almost to the fun part. This is like the last heavy conversation before we move on to the fun stuff. I want to talk about intentional drinking.
Okay.
So I do realize that there's a shift in culture happening, and heavy drinking is out of style. I just came across this article in Vice that said heavy drinking isn't cool anymore. It's not cool. It's not cool to get fucked up, trash, thrown up. Like that's not cool anymore. And so when I'm traveling, funny thing, we were talking about me traveling and drinking. I never actually remember what I drank. I remember the food. Always remember the food. But the alcohol, I'm like, I think it's because I wasn't being intentional. I think I just wanted to feel buzzed. So I didn't care what I had. I was just like, whatever. And then, so it's just like a post from binge drinking, mindful drinking is thankfully more popular. And I feel like a lot of your events, that's the focal point. Even this month, I know this month is like a dryish month for you. And we're doing a lot of low ABV cocktails and beverages. So I just kind of want to know your opinion about what you think of like the culture and how we're making that shift nowadays.
Yeah, I'd say I'm very excited about it. I've always just, I like lighter styles of drinking, even though I love alcohol in general. It always sounds so weird when I say it, but I do. I love alcohol. Like, but I've always like loved the the industry, and like there's something about drinking culture that I really love. But I personally, I mean, 2 drinks and I'm like, you don't want to see me at 4. Like, it's like I'm actually not a heavy drinker at all, and I think for years people were like surprised by that, but now people kind of understand that about me. So I look at like drinking culture in other like countries, like in Europe, for example, and they're all much more about like the moment and like that, like the aperitif hour, and like just getting together with friends and enjoying that moment, and like relaxing and laughs, and like just this easy, carefree type of thing. And that to me is what drinking is about. Like it is a combination always of great people, great food, great drinks. Like to me, it's not a separate thing. Like I want all
you
three.
Associate it.
All 3 at one time.
And if it's all done right, you don't have to overcompensate with the alcohol consumption and feel like, well, I can't, like, oh my gosh, perfect example. At the brunch dinner, I was like, yeah, these drinks are flowing, but like, I was on the dance floor and I wasn't even tipsy. That's rare. I don't go to the dance floor unless I'm tipsy. I only want to dance, like, I want to dance when I'm tipsy because I feel more confident. But the vibe was just so perfect. I didn't even know everybody in the room. I, casually knew some of them. But I was just like, this music is so good and this experience is just so great. I don't care. I'm having that much fun. Yeah. So I think that you do a great job when you when you go for that with your events. Let's see, I'm skipping along. Okay, let's move along. We've talked about that enough. This segment's called Ear to the Streets.
Okay. Ooh.
Okay. This is just kind of fun, but I say this often, and we kind of talked about it. Hospitality professionals are supposed to be considered to know what's popping, where to go, what to do. And I know you have your thing coming out soon. So if you feel like, I'll tell you guys in that, feel free. But what I will say is I want to use this opportunity to do a shout out. Shout out a chef, shout out a bartender or a bar, anything that comes to mind. I have my shout outs too. Okay. So if you want me to go first so you can think or...
No, go. I think, okay, so there are many, let me just preface this by saying there are many places in Atlanta that I love. I hold Atlanta up next to all the great cities in the U.S. I always feel like if you are eating and drinking one place in the U.S., Atlanta for me is that stop because it's not overwhelming, right? Yeah. Like, if you want amazing pizza, you can find it here. Just like every single category is present. But my favorites that I always kind of like, my go-to favorites, Talat Market. Talat Market, yeah. See, and I've never heard of it. There's so many people that don't know about Talat. Talat is it's a modern Georgia Thai food. Okay. Their food is amazing. The cocktails are amazing. It hits all those marks that I talk about, like just with having like fresh ingredients both in the front of the house and the back of the house, like it being inventive. Hospitality is always great. It's always thoughtful. The menu changes very often, especially on the food side, just depending on what's available. But it's one of my favorites. Okay. They opened as the pandemic started. Okay. But now, one of my favorites. Like, I followed Parnas. He used to do a pop-up at Gato, and that's how I was introduced to his food. I don't even know what Gato is. It's a spot in, I can't think of what neighborhood that is, but they had quite a few different pop-ups out of that space. But fantastic. Ticonderoga Club.
Okay.
Is
like Thai food. Is that Thai?
No, it's not Thai. It's American style food.
Okay.
So Greg Best, I just lost the name in my head. Forgive me. But he was at Holman and Finch.
Okay.
So to me, he's that group are like the grandfathers of the Atlanta craft bartending community.
Okay.
And so they kind of came together and do Ticonderoga Club.
Okay.
Again, fantastic cocktails.
Okay.
Amazing food.
Okay.
Like they have a Tres Leches on the menu right now. I will not be able to eat Tres Leches again.
It sounds like I might just have to go ahead and have
like
a
it is like. But I mean, they're never open on Wednesdays. They're open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Those
Sunday.
are the places I like.
Yeah.
When they're in so much
like
demand,
a random
they
little
can
Wednesday.
do their.
Yeah, it's just always right.
Mm-hmm.
Like always.
Mm-hmm.
Always. Like,
Really consistent. Just,
very consistent,
okay.
very high quality. It's amazing. Aziza, that's where I was before I came
Okay.
here. Again, same thing.
That
Great
one sounds
cocktails,
more
great
familiar.
food. It's in West Midtown.
Is it a pizza restaurant?
No, Mediterranean.
Okay.
It's really
Pizza. Okay.
more specifically.
Okay.
Wherever Tandi's making cocktails.
I literally have her on my list. I was
Wherever
like,
Tandi's make before
she's at the Thompson on Thursdays.
No, yeah, so she's always behind the bar at Thompson on Thursdays, but before it was like Bar Margot. I spent more time at Bar Margot probably than I did anywhere else. Than I have anywhere else in the city because Tandi was there. So now it was like, okay, we're going to Thompson.
Right,
I still go to Bar
follow.
Margot like occasionally, but like wherever Tandi is, like that is. You will find me there several times a month. Don't stop me.
Gotcha.
But I will be there.
I love
and Scott Lee Innes, he's Jamaican also. He's the chef at Continent.
Mm-hmm.
When Scott Lee is his Scotch bonnet fried chicken.
What kind of fried chicken?
Scotch bonnet. He doesn't do it at Continent.
What's Scotch bonnet?
Scotch bonnet is a pepper. It's
Okay.
It's like probably one of the most prominent ingredients in like Jamaican cooking. So I'd say Scotch bonnet, pimento. It's like that flavor that you get in jerk.
Okay.
It comes from the spice is from the Scotch bonnet, but instead of just having heat, it also has flavor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he like marinates his fried chicken in Scotch bonnet, and then but it's amazing. But to me, he's one of the most talented chefs that we have in the city.
Okay.
And very, very underrated. And like just his approach to food, especially Jamaican food. Like I remember the first time I had his oxtail ramen. And that's how
oxtail ramen.
And that's how that was my introduction to him. It was like, somebody's doing oxtail ramen. It's like, wait, what's happening here?
Oxtail ramen?
And oxtail ramen, like, to me, it was just such a special dish in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that he thinks about food is like, I can't quite, like, he taps into, like, it makes me want to be a food historian, like his food in a really interesting way. Like he just, it's like, it's a gift. Like, that's really what it is, to like be, so gifted that it just like naturally comes out of you that way. It's like almost like a processing of all the things that you've learned and all the techniques and all the experiences, and then just like, here we go, you know, like without like having to dissect like why you did this. And then, but when I have it, I'm just like blown away.
I feel I feel like you're doing the same exact thing when you have your experiences, and you got me over here just like, I almost cried at the experiences, and you're like, I mean, I'm just really good at it. You're making a big deal, and I'm like, no. How it translates is to a person like me who appreciates that so much. I feel like the same thing. You know?
Well,
so I get what you're saying.
I feel very grateful for that compliment. Thank you.
Yes. You've basically said a bunch of the people, like the things that I was going to say. I do have Sung-Hee Lee on here.
Yeah, Sung-Hee she's also one of my favorite people.
But my introduction was your brunch dinner, but the Korean fried chicken, the kimchi fried rice. Oh my gosh.
She's so talented. And she works,
I can
she's
tell.
like,
I only had.
Again, she's one of those people, like, she just, like, her food language, her wine language she's, again, another person that's very, very passionate about, like, food and beverage and hospitality.
Yeah.
And, like, works at the CDC full time. You know, like, she's like a scientist.
What?
Right? Like, but again, she just has, like, such a very deep food philosophy that just oozes out of her in everything that she does. Like, I absolutely love her, and she's a hilarious person as well.
Her social account's really fun.
Yeah. She's
really fun on
like,
social.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I have her, and then, of course, St-Germain.
Woohoo! Always St-Germain. St-Germain's amazing.
Another one that I've been, Sotal. I've just been introduced to Sotal.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the hugest fan of this. I didn't know it existed, honestly. They were like, you ever heard of Desert Door Sotal? I'm like, no, what's Sotal?
I've never heard of this category of spirit.
It's amazing.
Like, yeah.
It's really good. So yeah, that's what I have here.
Okay.
We got a quick speed round, and this kind of wraps up for our episode today, but so this is rapid fire, so try to answer in like 20 seconds at the most. Okay, so what song is on repeat right now for you? Specifically a song you play when you're having a cocktail, or if you're at a bar with a jukebox, or just a song that's on repeat when you're in that vibe.
Something Afrobeat, like
yes.
Something like we're talking about last, yeah, like always a good vibe, just like
Okay. Mine too. There seems to be a consensus controversy on this podcast about Long Island's. So I'm curious to what you think about them. Have you had one? What's your opinion about people that drink them if you don't? Like, I'm trying to do a mashup of Long Island content.
Any cocktail can be great. And I think that a Long Island iced tea can be made as a great cocktail. I remember making one. Again, it had the bar. Someone ordered a Long Island iced tea. I made a fantastic Long Island iced tea.
Really?
And they hated it. And I was just like, okay, well.
Well, they hated it.
Because it was not what...
They wanted more alcohol.
They wanted more alcohol. It was like a perfectly balanced Long Island iced tea. It was delicious. And they're like, this ain't right. Like, I was like, wait, what?
It wasn't strong enough.
It wasn't strong enough. Like, I'm like, why don't you just order a shot? But, so on the face of it, I'm like, a Long Island can be a balanced cocktail, and I stand behind that.
Okay, well, that's different.
It can absolutely, like, who said no? A Long Island iced tea can absolutely be balanced.
Okay.
And taste great.
Okay.
Why would it? Yeah, that's crazy.
You're right.
Who
it
said
could
no
be.
to this?
They didn't say it couldn't be, but they just, most of the people that come on the show, they're like, if you're ordering a Long Island, it's not about having a balanced cocktail.
Exactly. Now, that's the thing, though. Like, they don't want a balanced cocktail. That's another situation. But can it be? For sure. Am I ordering one? No.
Yeah.
Like, do the people want a balanced one? No. But can it? 100%.
Okay, that's fair. What are your favorite wings in the city? We're known for wings
here. So it's funny. My boyfriend, like, asked me that as I was pulling in the driveway.
Really?
Literally.
You got wings waiting for you?
No,
okay.
I don't. But he was asking, he's like, which wings do we like? And so, funny enough, I was not a big wings person. I'm still not even a big wings person. I've eaten more wings in my life dating him than I've ever have.
Okay.
Like, cumulatively. Like, I've never
if they're around, look, why not have a little wing?
I think the last Poor Hendrix wings, I really enjoyed. Poor Hendrix. It's, where are we calling that neighborhood? It's close to Decatur. It's before Decatur. Poor Hendrix is super underrated when it comes to food.
Okay.
Like, it's like the neighborhood bar I wish I had in my neighborhood.
Okay.
It should be in every neighborhood.
Okay.
Like, there should be
I've
a Poor
heard of
Hendrix.
Poor Calvin's.
No, different.
Okay.
Poor Hendrix. But their food is amazing. Their wings are really good. But, like, everything. They make, like, Rice Krispie treats. They're just delicious. I mean, but everything that comes out of that kitchen is fantastic.
In Decatur.
It's not Decatur. It's still Atlanta, but the neighborhood is, like, slipping my mind. But, like, that side of town.
Okay.
And I really recently had some drinks at Draw Bar, which were really
I've
good.
heard
Like, their
Draw
lemon
Bar.
pepper wet wings were... Maybe they weren't lemon pepper wet, but their lemon pepper wings were good.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you do when you and your boyfriend, you know you want to go out to eat, but you don't know what you want. You can't decide. You're like, what do you want? I don't know. What do you want? What do you do? Like, how do you find that? I know for me, a lot of times I've been like, do I want to eat with my hands or do I want to eat with a fork?
Oh, that's interesting.
Do I want to have acid reflux or do I want to sleep through the night?
It's funny because we don't go out to eat a lot because when I go out, it's normally because of work. Like, I'm out 4 or 5 places a night. And so I just kind of end up eating like as I'm out.
Yeah.
I think that on those rare occasions, then it ends up being Jamaican food, whether it's like I'm cooking it or like we're like going to get it from somewhere.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned that brunch was your favorite. What's one of your go-to brunch places? Or one that you love?
Juniper Cafe.
Juniper Cafe is really good.
Juniper Cafe is really good. I don't know if I have a go-to brunch place. See, this is why I need like a full list, because
you can't think on the spot.
I have something, but like I cannot tell you what it is right now.
That's
but
good.
Dirty Rascal, their pancakes are made like the whole brunch of that, like the breakfast brunch on like Sundays is very good.
Okay, that's at the Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that pretty much wraps up the episode. I think we covered a lot.
I think so.
Did you have any questions you want to ask me, or anything that you wanted to get off your chest? So you feel like we've addressed it all.
Good. No, I don't have any more questions.
Okay. I'm like, you never know. I don't know. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
making
This was
time.
an honor. Thank you. I appreciate it.
This was so much fun. I enjoyed our conversation. I feel like our listeners have left with some enrichment, some places to go, some things to take note of when they're out. I really do appreciate this. This was so much fun.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
I enjoyed it.
Great. So that pretty much wraps up the show, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I hope you're following us on IG. If you're not, it's Spirit and Soul Podcast. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. Please follow us on all of them, because that is how we will succeed and eventually be able to make money from this. Okay, just kidding. No, not kidding. Thank you so much. Love you and bye.
Hello, everybody. My name is Terrell Patterson, owner of Relly's Hospitality. We're one of the largest hospitality companies in Georgia with a database of over 375 bartenders and servers. We have the best chefs, the best DJs, and the best mixologists in the state. We curate some of the most premium events that you've been to, and we love to curate your next event. So please reach out to us at www.rellieshospitality.com for more booking information and more content. And always remember, we are Relly's Hospitality, and we only know premium.